Welcome to another episode of Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise Retirement Podcast, where certified financial planner Lauren Sherman shares thoughts on having a healthy mind, body, and spirit, an abundance of wealth inside portfolios and out, and lessons learned from clients and mentors over the years.
Welcome back, everyone, and hello to our new listeners. I am your host, Lauren Sherman, and today we are going to discuss 10 important distinctions. More specifically, 10 distinctions between millionaires and the middle class. When we were children, many of us thought about or even dreamed about one day becoming a millionaire. We did this without really knowing what it meant. Television and the movies portrayed millionaires as a step above, an elegance we should all be striving for. To some, this was a benchmark, meaning they made it in their chosen career path. To others, it meant they no longer had to work or worry about money. Whatever millionaire status meant to you growing up, it was more than likely romanticized and without real context. Close to 15 years ago, when I started in this business, a book caught my eye. The title, 10 Distinctions Between Millionaires and the Middle Class, can stir up some emotions on its own. Particularly being from Iowa, where we tend to pride ourselves on being working class, blue collar, and willing to put in the extra effort, we're probably a little more suspect of anything that diminishes the middle class. With some of these thoughts swirling around in my head, I gave it a chance 15 years ago, and together we are going to do the same today. I think what you'll find out if we let our guard down together for a moment is that each distinction is more of a mindset, and there's something valuable to learn from each. So instead of being offended or trying to challenge any of these lessons, let's at least initially go in with an open mind and no judgment, and I think we'll come out with some great takeaways. Author Keith Cameron Smith explains that each distinction is arranged in descending order of importance. So if you are like me, maybe you skip ahead to number 1 to learn the most important distinction. If your brain works in a more normal, sequential order, then be sure to stick with me to the end because they only get more important as we go. Let's get started. Distinction number 10. Millionaires think long-term, the middle class thinks short-term. Do you think week to week or month to month with a survival mindset? Keith explains that people often do this because they have a scarcity mentality, meaning there isn't enough for everyone, so life becomes the haves and the have-nots. Instead, do you think in terms of years or even decade to decade? Doing so helps our brains think in terms of abundance, as in there's more than enough for everyone. We often make daily or weekly to-do lists, but when is the last time you asked what you want life to look like 5, 10, or even 20 years down the road? Even though life will surely differ from whatever vision we come up with, creating a plan for longer time periods opens our minds to the possibility. Distinction number 9. Millionaires talk about ideas, the middle class talk about things and other people. I'll repeat that just to make sure you caught the difference. Millionaires talk about ideas, the middle class talk about things and other people. Your words are like a ship's rudder, determining which direction you go in life. This isn't to say that millionaires don't enjoy entertainment, it's just that they rarely spend much time talking about it. If someone wrote down all of your conversations for a week, a month, or even longer, would you be proud of their notes? Would you have passed along anything worth learning? If not, what can you do about it? Our author, Keith, suggests a few ways to take action. First, change your vocabulary to be more optimistic and ask, how could I do this? Instead of telling yourself that you can't do it. Second, stop complaining and start learning. Think of every mistake or failure as getting you one step closer. And third, share ideas and conversations with others who are successful and encouraging. Nothing kills a kindling flame quicker than a wet blanket who discourages every idea. Moving on to distinction number 8. Millionaires embrace change. The middle class is threatened by change. Having a millionaire mindset means that you view all change, positive or negative, as something that will benefit you. This can be hard, especially with unexpected change that can trigger fear and an unsettled feeling. The challenge here is to reframe change and any fear we feel as something positive that will work out best in the long run. When we look back at our lives and think of all the times that life threw us a curveball, how often did this end up being the best thing that could have happened to us? I would venture a guess that we've all been molded in one way or another by struggles that we've overcome. Distinction number 7. Millionaires take calculated risks. The middle class is afraid to take risks. One of the best ways to manage risk is to ask yourself 3 questions. First, what is the best thing that could happen? Second, what is the worst thing that could happen? And third, what is the most likely thing to happen? If we can live with the worst result and the most likely result will get us closer to our goals, then go for it. If you ask yourself these questions and it's not adding up, then find another strategy. On the flip side, indecision and keeping things on the back burner, as we like to say, might feel comfortable, but inaction is most often the worst decision we can make. So, what can we do to take more calculated risks? First off, we can start by taking smaller risks so that we get comfortable with the process. We can also change our language and our thought process by making definitive yes or no decisions. Pushing something to a later date or thinking it over can feel comfortable, and it may be valid in some circumstances, but in our heart of hearts, we usually know what our decision is, and we're only delaying the inevitable. Let's move on to distinction number 6. Millionaires continually learn and grow. The middle class thinks learning ended with school. Whether thinking about their business, their knowledge, their health, or anything in between, millionaires always keep a growth mindset. They value a coaching session or a good book more than the next hot gadget. While the middle class looks for free advice, millionaires understand that free advice is often the most expensive advice. Keith warns that while learning is great, wisdom is knowledge put into action. Each time we learn something new, we should be asking ourselves the question, where in my life can I apply this information? Distinction number 5. Millionaires work for profits. The middle class works for wages. This can be a tough one as not everyone is going to own a business, particularly a business that they can step away from for some time and then return to an even more profitable situation. Most of our jobs depend directly on us as we make the engine run. So instead, let's think like a millionaire and focus on how we can do things more efficiently. How often have you asked yourself, is there a better way to do this? Or perhaps an even better starting point is to ask, should I be doing this task in the first place? I think back to when I was growing up and spent so much time learning how to write cursive. Or how about learning detailed math equations when a calculator could do the work for you? I'm not sure my math teacher, Mr. Schachterly, or my writing teacher, Mrs. Carlson, appreciate my example, so I may have to edit that part out. But the point is to ask ourselves questions like, are there things I could automate or perhaps delegate to someone else instead of spending our own time, energy, and maybe our frustrations on? Years ago, Zig Ziglar shared a story that may help drive home this point. Every Thanksgiving, a young girl would watch her mom put a ham into the oven, but she would first cut off each end. Curious, the young girl asked, "Mom, why do you cut off the ends of the ham before putting it in the oven?" Her mom responded, "I guess I'm not sure. You'll have to ask your grandma since she taught me how to cook." Determined, the young girl went to her grandma and asked her question again. Her grandma gave a bit of a puzzled look and said, "That's how my mom taught me. You'll have to ask her." Finally, the young girl asked her grandmother the same question, who laughed and explained, "In my day, the oven wasn't big enough for the entire ham to fit." Whether in business or in life, we all do things simply because that's the way they've always been done. With a millionaire mindset, we might just ask ourselves if there's a better way. Let's move on to distinction number 4. Millionaires believe they must be generous. The middle class believes they can't afford to give. The Bible is said to have over 2,000 references to money or related topics. One in particular that goes hand in hand with our author's point of view is as follows. Psalm 37:21. The wicked borrows and does not repay, but the righteous shows mercy and gives. An old saying goes something like this. Our gifts will be bottled for a lifetime if we wait until we think we have enough. Author Cameron talks about generosity as a mindset more than a dollar amount and offers the following test to determine if you own your money or if your money owns you. Give it away. If you can do that, then you possess your money. If you cannot, then your money owns you. Another perspective. In the book Happy Money, The Science of Happier Spending, authors Elizabeth Dunn and Dr. Michael Norton teach us that money is not inherently good or bad. It is what we do with it that matters. To spend happier, as they describe, we should be using our money and resources to help others and on experiences rather than things. They describe one of the biggest secrets of using your resources to help others is actually the joy you receive in return. This far outweighs the joy we could have gotten out of spending our resources on ourselves. Distinction number 3. Millionaires have multiple sources of income. The middle class has only one or two. On the surface, a successful retiree may have Social Security, a pension, an annuity payment, and income from their assets each year. Perhaps they have a rental unit or a business they are still involved in too. The retiree who is struggling to make ends meet may only have a small savings and Social Security checks. While this is all true and relates to what pre-retirees are striving for or want to avoid, what Cameron is really saying is that we need to be in the right frame of mind when thinking about income. The millionaire mindset is going to look at their business or whatever line of work they're in and think through all of the potential avenues that it connects with other opportunities. Wouldn't it make sense for the wedding venue to also offer flower packages, honeymoon packages, and so on? Maybe it doesn't make sense for them, but the point is they are thinking through the process. Additionally, they are thinking through this in a way not to ask, where else can I make money, but instead, where else can I add value? Cameron calls this intentional congruence, meaning your plans are purposely aligned and well thought through. We've now covered the first 8 distinctions. If you're having trouble remembering them all, you may want to listen again with a notepad handy. We will also have the full transcript linked in our show notes, so this will be available to read as well as listen. So without further ado, let's jump into our last 2. Distinction number 2, millionaires focus on increasing their net worth. The middle class focuses on increasing its paychecks. With a millionaire mindset, it's much more important what you keep than what you made. Instead of increasing their spending as their income goes up, they increase their investing. The end goal in mind is to work towards something purposeful because we want to, not because we have to. We've all heard the saying, keeping up with the Joneses. But with a millionaire mindset, we're ignoring the Joneses and staying laser focused on our vision and purpose. Even better than getting a pay raise is to create passive income. As Keith puts it, millionaires don't have nest eggs, they have the geese that lay the golden eggs. You may not be in a place where you have your own golden geese, but the purpose of these distinctions is to challenge ourselves by asking empowering questions. We may never get to the perfect spot where we'd like to be as an end goal, but by simply challenging our minds and thinking through each distinction, hopefully we can take some big steps in the right direction. And that leads us right into our last distinction. Distinction number 1. Millionaires ask themselves empowering questions, while the middle class ask themselves disempowering questions. While on the surface this may not seem important, Keith explains, when you develop the habit of asking empowering questions, your life will take on new meaning and success is inevitable. It takes the same amount of effort to ask yourself, how am I going to double my income this year, as it does to ask, how am I going to make ends meet this month? Our brains are wired to search for answers for whatever questions we ask. We just have to ask better questions. Further, word your questions in the positive and in open-ended ways. Instead of, this can't be done, or even, can this be done, ask yourself, how could this be done? Not only does this improve your thinking and get your brain searching for answers, you will recognize them when they are presented. Asking ourselves disempowering questions is like putting a blindfold on. The answer could be right in front of our face, but we wouldn't know it if we can't see it. For a quick test to see how well your own brain might recognize things, I've included a 90-second experiment you can try on your own in our show notes. What you will likely find is that it can be pretty challenging to spot things when you're not looking for them, and conversely, just how easy it is to spot them when you know what you're looking for. With a millionaire mindset, opportunities work the same way, but I won't give away anything more until you have a chance to try this challenge out for yourself. Together, we are challenged to ask ourselves, who do I want to become? What would make my life most meaningful? We don't have to rely on author Keith's interpretation, as we need not look further than Matthew 7:7-8. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Final thoughts. As I mentioned from the get-go, the language of millionaire and middle class might not sit well with everyone. We all know millionaires who might be jerks and do not possess any of these distinctions. We all know those in the middle class who are good friends and salt of the earth type people. If you struggled with this at all, it may be helpful to reframe how you listen, as this book could easily be retitled 10 Distinctions Between the Successful and the Struggling. At the end of the day, this book really shaped my thinking almost 15 years ago, and I hope it has at least given you some questions to ponder. That's all for today. We will be back in 2 weeks to chat more. Until then, go ahead and check out the show notes for any links or resources that we discussed on the show, along with the experiment that we talked about. And you can check out our team and learn more by heading on over to healthywealthywiseretirement.com.
Thank you so much for listening and supporting this podcast. If you've enjoyed listening, we would love if you took a quick moment to leave an honest review. Of course, we're shooting for 5 stars, but if you have suggestions to improve the show, we would love to hear from you too. Just click on the podcast name, Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise Retirement Podcast, and scroll down to ratings and review. Thanks again for your support, as this helps us reach a wider audience and help even more retirees just like you. This podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and is not intended as a specific tax, legal, or investment advice. Lauren Sherman is a certified financial planner and co-owner of Integrity Wealth Management, an investment advisor serving retirees in search of their own healthy, wealthy, and wise retirement lifestyle.